Hey folks, Xanta here, and oh boy, I've had so many technical problems making sure everything went out and made sure I had it done by my 4 o'clock deadline today. Things aren't going well for me. Um, I had a few problems with recording on my tablet and all that when I originally did this, so hopefully things aren't going to be too much of a problem. So basically, what this all is, I'm going to be reading stories or viewing art from people who've submitted. And essentially, I will be doing this bi-weekly. I'll only read up to 5 pages and giving my opinions on them. Same with the art, I'll give my opinions. If I feel like there's something that's glaringly obvious or it just needs fixed and you might have missed it and you might be missing it every time you go through, I'll state my I'll state a little bit of critique so that way I can help you in the right direction to make sure you know. Without further ado, I have 4 submissions for today. All 4 submissions are really good, and I love the feeling and the contrastments between each style. Now, something I do want to mention before I start, I'm only going to be doing 3 things to say in terms of the rules here. The submissions must be safe for work, or SFW, however you want to state it. I'm not going to do anything that might go against contract against anywhere, because there's a lot of places that will immediately remove you for not safe work items. Secondly, like I said, if you have more than 5 pages and there's a certain set of pages you want me to read, I am only going to read 5 pages total. If there's only 1 page you want me to read, I'll read that 1 page only. With that being said, there are very few exceptions, and I actually have an exception for today. And that's because the story ends on the 6th page. Um, when it comes to how everything else is going to be, pretty much, like I said, I'll read through, give my opinions. Um, I have quite a few things that we get to deal with here, and quite a lot of fun. There's a lot of work that I have seen, and a lot of effort I have seen in all 4 of these projects that I've been given for today. And I am really hoping you guys enjoy them as much as I do. Hearing them from anybody else and hearing it in another person's words does wonders sometimes. It really does. Without further ado, from ScorchMatt on Forced Evolution Discord server, I bring you my first script I've ever read online, actually. And before I decided to turn around and actually read this, in terms of the first 5, I almost decided to do what I yeah, totally. Read, which was page 6 through 11. I turned around and I decided, no, I'm only going to read this teaser because it does a really freaking great job at just stating how this goes and getting you into the mood to actually read or see this if this is a script for an animated series or anything, which I hope it is. Anyway, with that out of the way, I introduce you to, like I said, the script. Exit Nexus Temple. Night. An imposing mosaic. Wow, I can't read. Of steel stands on a hill. Towering hierarchies of domes and pillars radiating white light to drown out the stars. Intro Nexus Temple Hall. Night. Chains clang in a silvery wall stretching for miles. Alex Corvum, 20s, white and white-haired, charming and faithful to a fault, wears a smug face. He treads behind a line of 6 grizzled peasants shackled like him, but he sticks out like a sore thumb, confidence beaming. Baton in hand, the rearguard shoves Alex closer ahead. Move. Alex keeps his smirk. Less chains ring. A solid metal wall blocks the line's path. Everyone stands patient. Alex tries to peer over the line. His rattling chains annoy a hulking man in front. Settle down. Wait for the warden like everybody else. Compliant, he settles. Mostly because he shouldn't get on these guys' bad side. The man in front glances over his shoulder. What's your story? You don't look like the usual filth that ends up here. No response. Word of advice. Make friends. No matter how tough you think you are, people are going to rip apart the fresh meat in there. I don't want to help drag out what's left of you. Then it's a good thing I'm not planning on getting in. True that. The man chuckles, shaking his head. Gears grind. The wall opens. Catherine Udicensis, 20s, Latina, black haired, stands on the other side. She wears an armored coat, a mighty right handed gauntlet, and a stern demeanor. Man, man. Men fix their posture in her presence. The leading guard talks. 7 prisoners total, Warden. Excellent. Bring 'em in. More shoving. The line enters an empty steel-enforced ballroom. Only a giant ring-like machine entrenched in the back wall looms over. Catherine slips her gauntlet into a keyhole. Clink. Lights around the ring beam out to form a portal. A ramp descends. One by one, prisoners march up the ramp and vanish through the ring of light. Only Alex remains. The portal blazes in his face. One more step and he's through. Stop! The room freezes. Catherine approaches him. She slithers her gauntleted fingers up from his cheek to his neck. Their eyes lock inches apart. Problem? This one's different. He might not belong in the forest. I will re-examine him. You men may leave. The 2 guards look at each other. I said leave. They nod and close the wall behind them as they exit. Re-examine? Really? She rolls her eyes. Oh, be quiet. Catherine chops off Alex's chains in one swoop and shuts down the portal. All courtesy of her gauntlet. That staring routine was pretty intimate. Practice that for me? Stop talking and be serious. She removes a loose tile in the wall and retrieves a messenger bag. Here. She tosses in the bag, rustling with items. Catherine pushes a pressure plate on the wall, and hidden steel doors retract to reveal an obscure passageway. It's in there. Are you sure about this? Without a doubt. Alarms blare. Dimmer yellow lights replace the normal lighting. Banging on the wall comes from outside. Fine, I'll take care of them. Alex walks through the passage and smiles at Catherine. Good luck. She smiles back and nods. Her blue eyes are the last glimmers of light he sees as the passage seals and everything goes black. Int. Nexus Temple's hidden room. Night. Ting. Blue light emanates from a glass cylinder. In Alex's grip. Shadow covers everything outside of this glow's reach. Footsteps echo. Thick wires litter the floor. They converge at the room's centerpiece, another portal machine. Alex rushes to the machine's control panel. There's too many buttons to count. The giant cracked screen sticks out. Clueless, he places his palm on the screen. Metal bellows, the machine lights up, and the portal emerges. It works! He reaches into the bag and pulls out a book. He flips through the pages of drawings until one catches his eye. It's a map of Earth. Through the entrance, clouds of purple smog seep into the room unnoticed. Something else is with him. In the soft glow of the portal, Alex's smirk fades. He takes a deep, hard breath. Alex leaps into the air, and 2 giant wings explode from his back. In a single powerful swoop, they propel him through the portal. A burst of light trails behind. Scene. Oh boy! I love the feeling that you get reading this, especially for the teaser. Sure, my voice might not be doing it justice, but when it comes to everything else, I really admire the style and how everything's set up here. A couple things I want to point out. When Catherine's asking when he's sure, you don't need that second you. Otherwise, the only other thing I could really say is the ramp descending or ascending? Is it coming from the ceiling? Or is it like a straight platform from the portal that's above the people until the portal's active and then it descends down to them? That'd be kind of neat to see, but I would look back into that just to double check. There's not really enough detail to state like how this comes to be. Otherwise, all no, I really loved it, and I honestly thought Catherine was going to kill Alex. I really did. But then, as you can see here, she's with him the whole time. Either that, or, well, they had a deal. Really nice work. Really nice work, ScorchMatt. Alright, next up, from Sinbad Alexandros, my sister. This. Oh boy. It hit close to home the first time I read it, and I'll give you my first impressions when I was double checking what to read for today. And I'll explain that here in a moment as well. But without further ado, my heart aches, and my soul does cry. My heart is torn from within, and only I know why. She is the one who paid the price. Oh, life can be so unfair. My sister could have been an angel, with golden blonde hair. She never spoke a word and did no wrong, but she gave me her life and made me strong. I never got to know her, but she is always near. She shares my pain and also my fear. There are no words of comfort or enough tears for me to shed that will make up for the loss of a sister who will never know the joy of being wed. I will never forget her, as long as as we long to be separate and free, till the day that I die. My sister will be with me. Praying for peace and happiness, we long to give each other sibling love. For the sister I never knew, I have even begged to God above. I don't know why this happened, or when it'll end. I do my best each day for my sister, for she is still my friend. No one will ever understand the loss that I endure, for that wonderful sister who must have been so pure. I am her brother, and she is my twin. I will always keep going, so one day we can both win. Ugh. The feels, man, the feels. Alright, now, there's a reason why I said there's more, like, that I could have chose from. When Sinbad had submitted, he narrowed it down, but he couldn't figure out which one to read, like, submit over to me. So what I did is I just chose a random one using a die, and I ended up landing for my sister. When I was first reading this, when it comes down to talking about free me, the stanza right here. By the way, a stanza is a paragraph or poem, in case you didn't know. Um, when I read free and then immediately after I read me, the only thing that popped in my head, even though I didn't mean this to intentionally happen, was wake me up inside. I died laughing, and I'm sorry, that wasn't supposed to be my first reaction. Now, on a more serious note, when I finally got over my bouts of being my how do I say crazy, I enjoy the wordplay. I enjoy the imagery. There's a few things here and there that I don't exactly think, like the word choice is kind of not needed. Like it could be better, I guess you could say. Like torn could be ripped. Um, it's hard to like think of words right off the bat that can sit there and help stanzas do better. The rhyming scheme is very beautiful and he keeps an even pace throughout the entire poem. And this is A B C B. I'm thinking, yeah, because the first line does not rhyme with the third, but the second and fourth always rhyme, and that stays all the way through. And I screwed that up. The first and third don't. The second and fourth. Yep. No wait. I okay. I'm drunk. Anyway, um, some of the other things that I really love and I enjoy is the fact that Sinbad really You could make a story out of a poem like Shakespeare and probably blow his works out of the water. Even though he's extremely famous for good poems, heck, probably even Edgar Allan Poe. This is really good work. Kudos to you, man. Kudos to you. Now, starting up with Supersonic's 9678 submission, something that I really love because it takes a different spin on how some people write. And before I continue, this is going to be based around religion. I don't care if you're like what religion you follow. I don't care what culture you're in. As long as it's not bashing another religion or basically going against everything else or breaking code of conducts, I don't care. You can give me atheist material. I really don't care. With that being said, I am not going to tolerate having other people's bash other people's works. I really don't see the point in that. People draw what they draw, people write what they write, let them be who they are. Just like cultures. Anyway, enough spiel for me. This right here, I actually was helping Sonic here a bit to make sure, like, to help her edit a bit and all that, and it's not like I read the whole thing and remembered it right off the bat and actually gave a thought to it, besides me looking through for things that could be edited. With that stated, just when the preview was given for this, I just knew it would be something fun to read for everybody to hear as well. Without further ado, let's begin. Thunder shook the skies before a flash of light blinded the young man. In a moment, white feathery wings enveloped him, shielding him from the source of the storm ravaging the lands. Suddenly, it grew quiet, and the angel slowly opened his wings to peer out at his former friends and acquaintances, who refused to acknowledge his existence. He began hesitantly, only to be silenced with a glare from the man leading the crowd. He had never seen someone so furious with him, yet he knew he deserved the anger and disappointment. No, you have committed a sin against heaven itself, Azrael. You are to be driven out of this holy ground, and you will lose your heavenly status. The younger angel stared at him, shaking in fear as he listened to the decree. Please, let me explain, Father. Bright blue eyes met an emerald green before turning their gaze back to the crowd. Let me explain. Very well. You may explain what you have done, but you shall not remain here once you have finished. His voice boomed, shaking the lands which caused Azrael to envelop himself in wings once more. He peered out from behind the wings, and with a look of a small child, terror in his eyes. I didn't mean to, Father. I should have not been so boastful. I should have not strived for others to admire my accomplishments. I was overtaken by jealousy. It consumed me, and I wished to become better than those around me. I should have not yearned for wealth when I was meant to remain humbled in my turmoil. I have wronged, Father, and I know there is little I can do to remain here in heaven with you. But may I try? The angels surrounding him gasped at his declaration and the request that followed. He had committed 3 of the 7 deadly sins and would be thrown out of the gates of heaven to the earth below. Azrael, you were prideful, you were envious, and you were greedy. You have defied the laws I have set in place. You have done nothing but sin during your time in heaven. There is absolutely nothing you can do to remain here. You will be thrown from the gates of heaven as you descend, your heavenly status will shatter completely. Mitchell, Gabriel, grab him. Remove him. Wow. 2 angels stepped forward. Both held looks of disappointment in their eyes as they reached for his arms. No, wait! Don't do this! I can fix this! Azrael screamed, fighting against their hold in desperation. Gabriel shook his head, the grip he held tightening despite Azrael's attempt to escape. Please! The word tore itself from his throat as he ripped his arm from the angel's grasp. I can fix this. I'm sorry. Don't turn on me, Father. A sob broke that silence that followed as he collapsed, his wings wrapped tightly around himself. Gabriel and Mitchell shared a look of sadness before reaching for him once more and pulling him to his feet. The angel was pulled along, kicking and screaming for mercy, towards the shimmering gates in the distance. Silence, Azrael, Mitchell ordered, his tone sharp through the tears threatening to pour over contrasted with this statement. Though the tears, wow. Gabriel, the gates. The bright gold gates swung open to show the edge of heaven's holy lands as they gently shoved Azrael forward. This is it. You may jump or we'll throw you from the gates. I do not speak. A voice thundered across heaven once more as the angel from before returned, emerald eyes burning with a mix of anger and distress. You made a mockery of my laws, yet you beg for a second chance? Your entire life was nothing but second chances, Azrael. You never could follow the rules, and it is time that you face the consequences of your actions. You have thrown everything we taught you aside to please hell's demons. If that is what you wish to do, then you deserve nothing but to join them in the fiery depths of hell. Mitchell, Gabriel, remove him, now. A moment of later, the pair of angels were dragging him towards the edge. I'm sorry, Father. Please know that. I understand that, Azrael. But you knew the consequences of your actions. When you two have finished, return to my chambers. I must speak to both of you, about the future of these lands. With that, he flew off towards the center of heaven, where his chambers sat perched on a hill. Yes, Father. Yes, sir. The two spoke at the same time, before returning to face the edge of the land, listening as Azrael continued to sob. Gabriel, Mitchell, will I forget about you two? You may in time, but it will not be immediate. You remember the days of reciting within heaven's gates. They lifted him from the ground as though he was weightless, taking a few steps closer to the edge. A moment of silence passed, and suddenly Azrael was plummeting towards the ground, watching as Mitchell and Gabriel flew off. He felt like he was being burnt alive, the white feathers on his wings charring through his descent. Blond hair darkened to a jet black, his bright eyes becoming dull with sadness. He collided with a crash and unsure of where he was. He began to glance around. The lands were drenched in shadows cast by the light of fires scattered across the property. Breathing ragged, the fallen angel wreathed, oh my, in pain, his wings pulled tightly against his body. In, out, in, out. He thought to himself in an attempt to slow his heart rate. In, out, in, out. Breathe. Full breath, breath, breath. The words repeated themselves like a mantra in his mind, somehow calming him slightly before the reality of this hit him. It seems I've fallen. He whispered as though he had to say it for it to truly become real. A few minutes passed as he struggled to stand, and once he managed, he began to gaze around once more. Azrael stepped forward hesitantly, his balance slowly returning to him. Maybe I can thud. He hit the ground suddenly as black fur being swept out of his feet. His blue eyes found a man standing above him, the blur from before. His attacker with silver hair and deep violet eyes that seemed to stare through him. The demon's arms were crossed over his chest, and a silver blade, engraved with runes that seemed to glow with power, hung from his hip. Azrael supposed he was the guard of these lands. You. Why are you here, angel? The voice that spoke was dark, anger radiating from the owner. I am no longer an angel. I was prideful, envious, greedy. I committed 3 of the 7 deadly sins. I am no angel. Azrael whimpered, pulling his charred wings around him in an attempt to protect himself. You do not belong here. You still feel compassion and regret for the deeds you have done. You will not be a demon until that fades. You have simply fallen. You are not welcome anywhere. Azrael listened in silence, fighting back tears. Weak. I must bring you to the boss. Stand. The fallen angel did not move, dull eyes staring at his captor. I take no orders from demons. A beat of silence. Azrael was suddenly resting on the demon's shoulder, much to his dismay as it sprinted towards the center of hell. The heat increased rapidly until Azrael whimpered in pain. His wings lit on fire in several places as feathers turned ash. His body collided with a set of stairs as the silver-haired demon threw him at the feet of the man, who seemed to radiate power. Boss, I found him on the edges of our land. Will he remain here? Okay, I'm sorry. Just that line, just. Anyway. Angel, state your name. Azrael, why have you entered hell? I was prideful, envious, and greedy. I sinned against heaven. Do we have any other fallen angels residing here? Takashi? Yes, one. Oh, I see where this is going. His name is Ezekiel. He has remained on the outskirts of hell since he arrived. Would you like Ezekiel to see to Azrael's wounds? Takashi questioned, an irritated look in his eyes. No. There is no chance of him returning to heaven, and if he doesn't survive, Lucifer trailed off, a dark look in his gray eyes. You may leave, Takashi. The silver-haired demon bowed slightly and quickly ran off, the doors flying open and slamming shut behind him. A moment later, the fallen angel was hanging a few feet from the ground, a hand wrapped around his throat. You worthless angels are sent here for me to deal with, the grip tightened. You do not belong here. So few survived the descent into hell, let alone remaining here. Azrael gasped for air, his windpipe being crushed under the force of the chokehold. If you remain here, you will suffer unimaginable pains. You will never experience a joy again, Angel. Lucifer, do not speak my name aloud. Azrael whined in pain when he was slapped across the face. He was thrown to the ground once more, fingerprint bruises surrounding his throat. The fallen angel struggled to breathe, chest heaving up and down until a gasp barely escaped his throat as a combat boot was pressed against his ribcage, pinning him to the floor. You will suffer, Azrael. I will see to that personally. Do you understand? You do not belong within Hell's gates, yet you have been tossed aside by a god who proclaims love to all of his angels. You were lied to. You were too much trouble, so you were sent to me. Lucifer ripped the former angel from the floor, staring him down with dark gray eyes. I understand. You have remained here with me, and if you fail to do as I say, I will throw you to the bloodthirsty demons that roam these lands. It is ultimately your choice, Azrael. Do not pick the wrong one. Understood. The fallen angel had managed to calm down to a degree, despite the fact Lucifer himself was threatening to rip him apart. Do not leave this building. Do not speak unless spoken to. Do not refer to me by my true name. Lucifer listed these orders to Azrael, pulling his head to force eye contact when he spoke the last one. None of my demons may call me Lucifer, Azrael. You shall not speak my name aloud. Is that understood, Angel? Of course. Lucifer didn't respond. Rather, he threw the angel across the room before snapping at him. Out! Azrael nodded rapidly and hurried out of the room down the hallway. Wings dragging behind him. He found an entirely empty room, save a few clothes tossed into a corner, and decided to stay there. In a few minutes, he built a cot on the floor and was laid across it, attempting to nurse his burned and battered wings. I doubt I'll ever fly again, he whispered, noting that the right wing was broken along with being burnt to a crisp. With a soft sigh, he pulled his charred wings against his body and curled into him, hiding himself from the outside world. I just have to survive, he thought before drifting into a restless slumber. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. My eyes hurt. That's a lot of color. Anyway, a few things I want to mention real quick. Where you have breath, it should, like the way you have it written, it should be breathe. I got to find like one of the examples. I am. Like right here. Instead of struggle to breath, it should be struggle to breathe, of course. I'm not berating you or anything. This up here, I think you were trying to go for breathe 3 times. Either way, that's a clever setup here. And yeah, besides commas being needed, that's really it. This work, when I first read the preview to it, I already knew it was going to be something fun to read aloud. I would be able to put a lot of emotion I haven't been able to put in a while to some works. It's hard for me to know what to say and to make it do, like, my words do justice to read it. It's there. You see what happens, you see what's the response, you see what the consequences are, and yet they're still done and caused. Does this mean that this angel, Azrael, will never get a chance? I don't know. That's up to the author to decide. Very well job done, Supersonic. Now, last but not least, and I'll make sure I get her user correct. EndGirl, also from the same exact Discord server that the other three were from. This is the twist in this is going to be beautiful. You'll see it as we read. Without further ado, I can't go home, I thought. I looked down at my report. D's and 1 C. I thought about my scars when I imagined how hard my parents would hit me if I showed them this. Then I thought, why not just stay at school? It's not like they care about me or would get worried if I didn't come back. Suddenly, I realized that it was a very good idea and it might just work. After all, my school had a kitchen for food and a bed and a nurse's office to sleep in, and it meant having a school to myself. I became excited, but like with every emotion, didn't let it show. After that, the school day ended quickly. I watched as pupils flooded the corridors and hallways, desperate to get home or go to each other's houses. A few waved goodbye at me, and like always, I stared back, blankly. Damn. I hated these people. Fake smiles everywhere I looked. Scared people who had tried too hard to fit in and be popular. I shook my head and went to the science department. Here's some things you should know about my school. It's all one big building. The first floor has the kitchen, dining room, nurse's office, and a language classrooms, along with a block of toilets designated for staff, girls and boys. The second floor has the math, English, and science classrooms, and on the third floor has the PE hall and many and other random classrooms, along with the staff room, the library, and other blocks of toilets. There are 2 ways to get into the school. The front door, cameras are placed around it to monitor who gets in, and an alarm goes off if an unwanted person enters. And a small door leading to the fenced PE field at the back of the school, old and surrounded by cobwebs. I couldn't remember the last time I saw anyone enter through there. Some parts of the building had permanent scaffolding on it because of the fire that happened here a very long ago. We were never really told the reason as to why it happened or who started it. Twice a year we hold a memorial to remember them. The keys to get in, out of the doors, or any of the classrooms in the mornings were kept in a small office close to the main door. I hated a science cover for 1 hour and 20 minutes. So when I came out, it was 5:10 p.m. No security guards. Oh, whoops. I would have stayed longer. Excuse me. But my legs began to hurt, and anyway, all the clubs had ended by then, so the school was empty. We had no security guards or anything like the other schools had, so I knew that I didn't have to worry about them. I didn't need to worry about them. I strolled down to the kitchen. The corridor is lit by the last remaining rays of sunlight, streaming through the windows. It was quite beautiful like this. Plants creating mysterious shadow patterns on the floor. with a wash of orange light behind them and the doors leading to the dark, secret rooms waiting to be explored by tired students the next morning. My bag stayed on my back, carrying the report, just as my mind was. I reached the kitchen and rummaged around for some food. After a few seconds, I found some cookies, which would have been put out for the next day for pupils to buy and eat. Not me. My parents would have never spared any penny, or a penny. I grabbed 7 and made my way to the nurse's office, shoving them in my bag for later when I grew hungry again. I didn't do much but lie down and scroll through my phone mindlessly on the bed. When I checked the time again, it was 6:30 p.m. I shrugged and sighed. I didn't think it'd be this dull. Getting off the bed, I wondered where I could go for some entertainment. I enjoyed sports, but if I made too much noise by running around, a house next to the school could hear it. I figured I could do something in one of the classrooms, so I strolled coolly to the staircase and walked up to the second floor, leaving my phone in the nurse's office. I began to walk down the corridor with the English rooms and halted suddenly outside one. I gazed through the window of the door and saw people. Kids, my age, sitting at desks with the teacher in front. She noticed me and waved me in. I assumed I was hallucinating and thought it'd be quite fun, so I opened the door and walked in. Class, please welcome our newest student. Maxwell, she said, almost too happily. Max, I corrected her. I realized how boring this would be and turned around to the door. The teacher sensed my plan and said sternly, Where do you think you're going? Out. Looking back, I wonder why I even replied. After all, I assumed they were simply figments of my imagination, created by myself from some entertainment. No, you're not. Sit down right away, Max, she said. I could sense she was angry. I mumbled under my breath and sat down at the only remaining seat. There was something that wasn't quite right about it. The kids wore old matching shoes, as if it was a school uniform, but they were really out of date. The boys wore three-quarter length gray metallic trousers and long-sleeved white shirts with a bit of a puffy cuff at the end. They all had ties around their necks, wore battered shoes on their feet, and serious looks on their faces. They stared straight ahead and showed no emotion whatsoever. I turned to look at some of the girls in the classroom. They all wore gray I almost said pantyhose, pinafores, and long-sleeved shirts. Their gray socks climbed up to the top of their shins, and the shoes were the same as the boys' ones. The expression upon their face was the same, empty. I looked out the window, desperately panicking. The classroom I was in had a window overlooking the PE field, so I glanced out of that one. There were no fences. It was just a field with long grass, unlike the usual short-trimmed grass, surrounded by a metal fence. I was really in a state of panic at the moment. I need to go to the bathroom. I practically yelled at the teacher who was mumbling something about poetry and its effect on society. She looked shocked, but still answered quickly. Okay, but be back as soon as you can. I sprinted out of the classroom. I knew there wasn't a bathroom for the boys on this floor, so I turned to the stairs to climb up. There weren't any. The only way I could go was down. The whole third floor had vanished. I wasn't too sure what happened to my mental state of mind at that moment, but I became hysterical. I choked on air and stumbled over my own feet. I collapsed on the ground and blanked out. One hour later. There you go. A woman's voice was the first thing I heard after I became unconscious. It's okay. She paused and mumbled something to somebody before continuing. Max? I slowly opened my eyes and looked around the room I was in. It had the same layout as the nurse's office, only different. The bed was lower and the duvet over me felt like straw. The pillow was almost flat and the bed stood close to the ground. The desk no longer had a computer on it, instead worksheets and papers thrown around carelessly. There were two people there, a boy who I recognized from the classroom I was earlier, and a nurse. I could tell her status because she was wearing a white dress with a red cross stitched onto it and a white cap. Where am I? I weakly muttered. I must have banged my head really hard on the floor. You're in the nurse's office, sweetheart, she said. I must say, your clothes are very, interesting. I slowly got up and became very self-conscious. I wasn't wearing the school uniform, but I shrugged it off. I had to find a way to get back to my time. I've got to go. Thank you for taking care of me, I mumbled before heaving myself off the bed. Oh, are you sure you're all right? She asked. I could tell by her voice that she was worried about me, and it felt nice to have someone care about you. William, how about you look after Max for me? The boy nodded slightly. He was pale, thin, and shy. I walked out of the room, clueless on what to do. William followed promptly behind me. I turned to him. Hello, my name is Max. Thanks for bringing me down to the nurse. I held out my hand, doing my best to smile. Hello, he stuttered. My name is William. He shook my hand. He immediately warmed up to me. I walked towards the staircase leading to the next floor up. I figured I was through some strange time loop. My physics teacher had told me something about black holes and time travel. I thought if I get stumped back in time when I walked into the classroom, maybe walking back in would send me back. On our way there, an awkward silence developed, so I said, Tell me a bit about yourself, William. He was more than happy to, and instantly blurted out a reply. I'm 14, play the piano, and have a babysitter. Well, not really a baby because she's 2, but my parents and I call her a baby girl. But maybe that's just because, yeah, okay, what else? I felt like this boy was holding this in his whole life. Can I ask you a question? Shoot. He looked startled and took a step back. I stopped walking inside. Why would I shoot you? My parents say that only bad people shoot people, and I should never shoot anyone. Although, in defense, they say it's sometimes okay, but I said, What's the question? I interrupted, annoyed how much one boy could speak. I continued walking. We were almost at the foot of the stairs. Where are the bruises from? I stopped walking. Tensing up, I said, None of your business. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to be rude. I just thought maybe we were beginning to be friends. My mother always says that friends open up to each other and you can trust your friends, so I thought you might. I'll tell you why. I realized this was the only way to get him to shut up. Maybe he'd leave me alone, too. I laughed a bit in my head when I realized I actually thought I could have made a friend. I get them from my parents. Oh, like genes? My mom says that my green eyes are from her. Wow. And my brown hair's from my dad. Maybe that's where are from. No. I held in the tears that I've kept in for so long. Too long. They they beat me, William. I looked down on the floor and collected myself again. I had swore a long time ago and I would never cry in front of anybody. Never show my emotions at all, in fear of being thought to be weak. William, for once, said nothing. We had reached the stairs. We began walking up when an ear-splitting sound shrieked across the whole building. What the hell is that? I cried. The fire alarm! We got to go! He yelled back, grabbing my arm and yanking me down. I can't! I've got to get to that classroom! I tried to tell him, but either he couldn't hear me or didn't care. We ran out onto the field and back to school and met all the other pupils there. The whole school was lit up in flames. We stood there, open mouthed, watching it burn. Pupils gawked at their bags and coats. Teachers gaped at their classrooms. I stared at the first classroom on the second floor. My only way home burned. The imagery in this is so nicely done. Like, I this is relatable on so many levels because of the whole fire alarm noise, the fact that you're in school when it happens, and nicely done there. In terms of critique, there's a few things that I like noticed right as I was trying to read it, and it slipped me up a bit. Um, Pupils, you can technically state kids or people, really, your choice. It's an interesting word to use for my pupils. That's what's the sense is going on here. My pupils, which are students within the same class as you, or at least in the same school. Now, this here, they're gray, once white. I think you could take that out of parentheses and put commas. But the thing is, if this is a thought or a note, I don't think it needs to be here. This is something that you can't really tell unless there's an actual description behind it. So just be careful there. The next thing that comes up that needs fixed is right here. You already have I said beforehand. You don't need the second I said here. You do the same thing down here when you say I said, but you don't state the second I said. which is better. It works for how you were writing it, and when it comes to the way everything's set up, it was good. I will state that there are a few word choices that you could have done that might have been better, but then again, it's almost every writing. Nobody has the perfect word choice that's going to make your statements 100% all the time. Nothing is perfect. But everything that was read up to this point was grand. This is no exception, in my opinion. And honestly, I wish this would have been continued. I would have loved reading this on my spare time. It would have been so great. The only thing that's kind of strange is when I read through this entire thing, I'm sitting there and, like, down here, he's talking about, oh, hey, he got to the classroom, opened the door, and literally just, oh, hey, he went through the room, and immediately he's back, or she. The first person point of view here really makes you feel like you're the storyteller, like the person who runs the story as the main character. That's not something I see often, and you did a really nice job here, EndGirl. But I'm afraid that's all the submissions I have for today, and I really enjoyed reading these. The next event's to be held on the second Saturday of April, which is, let me open up a calendar. The 14th. I am hoping this series goes well. And like I stated, I'm sorry that my voice may not be the best for reading aloud, but at the same time, I enjoy doing this, and this is for everybody's benefit. But without further ado, I'll see you later, folks, and I hope you enjoy your day. If you want to leave a comment about your thoughts on any of the stories covered today, or the script, or the poem, by all means, leave a comment below, state your opinions. Do not be disrespectful, please. And with that, adios, amigos.